Take a look around the US and you will see that debt has become a burden for millions of Americans. When you see different cities, different states, you get a different picture. So we're going to look at that today. I also want to touch on other financial issues, including those in Italy and more. Let's begin. So first I'm going to show you this chart here, and that is out of Property Shark, how much space you can buy for $200,000. And it will shock some people to see what individuals are paying today, whether you look at an area like Washington, D.C., 423 square feet. You look at Manhattan, 126 square feet. Compare that to an area like Cleveland, where you are getting 3,800 square feet. And the last one I want to touch on here is Seattle at 525 square feet. I'll talk more about that in a moment. But essentially, we have this currency. You may see $200,000. But what does $200,000 really mean? We're not really getting an accurate depiction of what that is, because when you look at it compared to the goods you spend, it means a different thing from one city to another. If you happen to be located in Seattle, $200,000 does not mean the same thing that it does in Cleveland. So these dollars have been completely, let's say, manipulated by the central bankers. We don't know what's accurate. We don't know what's happening at all. All we know is that the money system, the whole financial system, is a fraud. It's a scam. And I, for one, do not want my money to be in cash. That's the biggest mistake, because we know that it is being devalued. No matter whether you're in Cleveland or Seattle, the money is being devalued. But we need to take extra steps, extra precautions to be able to protect ourselves, to be able to make some money, and to look at what I have to show you here with Seattle in particular. Now, this is an extreme example because it's one of the biggest cities, one of the fastest growing cities. Seattle's number one for growth this decade. Since 2010, Seattle's population has increased by 18.7%. Nearly 20% growth over a 10-year period. That is massive. It's the fastest growth rate among the 50 largest U.S. cities. So we're comparing here Seattle, looking at areas of Texas, Washington, D.C. There are areas that have grown dramatically. Okay, that is very, very clear. Seattle just happens to be one of the biggest, and part of that is because of the tech boom that's taken place. So a lot of jobs are moving into the area, a lot of high-paying jobs, in fact, and as well as just the general economy seems to be doing better in Seattle than other places of the U.S. Doesn't mean that it's, of course, doing good, but I would say that somewhat better. So they're seeing more growth, they're seeing more an influx of people, they're seeing more jobs, but they also have the negative sides of that too. There's no doubt about that. However, there are other areas that are definitely suffering worse. Now, again, imagine this, that you work at one of these tech companies, you're getting paid $100,000 a year, and you are earning what they would consider a good income. But in Seattle, because of the prices of the homes, because of the cost of the food, because of the energy prices, because of everything you have to buy in your daily life, suddenly $100,000 isn't that much. But then you take it to a place like, extreme example on the other side, Cleveland, you're making $100,000, you're doing very, very well. In fact, I just showed you a statistic within the last day or two that Detroit, if you make something around the lines of $56,000, you're considered actually rich. $56,000. But in Seattle, that's really not the case. Manhattan, that's not the case. Other places, you can see how the value of your dollars really don't mean anything compared to that number. Seattle has its critics. You've probably heard some fed up folks grumbling about leaving the city, and now some businesses too, in the fallout from our controversial new head tax on large corporations. But say what you will about Seattle, you can't say that people don't want to live here. They're talking about the growth here, looking at the growth, how it actually toppled, in terms of population, seeing Austin, Texas, going beyond that in the growth stages here. They cover more issues in this. I just wanted to touch on that fact. And ultimately, what we have is a situation where there's too much debt. Debt is what burdens the individuals, and unfortunately, there's no possible way that this will be fixed. Household debt service as a percentage of disposable income. You can see this on the chart here. Total debt service is the line near the top there. Whether you're looking at the mortgage, consumer debt, it doesn't matter to me. All I know is that we have had a very, very, uh, you know, large amount of debt in every way possible. But this here shows us that in the US, there has been some deleveraging. I would be unwilling to believe this for just taking it how it is, okay? The reason I say that is because, number one, we've seen student debt rising. People are not using their student debt just for, student loans, what they need for their schooling. They're using it for all different kinds of things. You have credit card debt at the maximum levels it's ever been. But what is not factored in is the fact that people right now are using their homes as ATMs. So the equity that they built up in there, they're pulling it out and they're using it to either pay down their credit cards, they're using that to be buying their things that they simply need to, whatever, is a vacation or maybe an iPhone or whatever. That's skewing this system right now. So the housing had crashed, so they couldn't use the equity then, but in the past few years, you've seen housing rising. It's been appreciating. That's very clear. That's really skewing the numbers here, and I think it's important that I share that with you, not just, the examples I would normally show. I want to show you the other side of the equation as well. Debt burden hits new record. Non-housing consumer debt as a percentage of disposable income. This number continues to rise. It's showing us from the 90s up until today. Debt has increased as interest rates have gone lower and lower. People are taking on more and more debt. I constantly hear the argument that we should be taking on more debt, and I do understand that when interest rates are low or getting lower, that in a sense, it does make sense, okay? I get that. You want to borrow when interest rates are low, and you want to pay down debt when interest rates are rising. I get that. However, we are hitting levels today that are completely and entirely uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen. We have no idea. And it is a matter of fact that we will be able to ultimately reap what we sow. Hope you understand me with that. All right. Now, switching gears over to what's happening in Italy right here, this is no different than what we've seen before. Moody's has said that they placed the government of Italy's ratings on review for a possible downgrade of the ratings. They're thinking about bringing them down to junk territory. Junk territory means, guess what? I'm going to show you right here. Yields will rise. The value of these, of their debt will be diminishing very rapidly. As soon as you get into junk territory, nobody wants to buy it unless they're willing to take a big, big risk. Italy is not going to be able to pay back on all this debt. It's simply impossible. So we are in for one hell of a predicament. I'm going to tell you that right now. Italy is in big trouble. Now, what they're concerned about is the new government, and they're thinking, what's going to happen? Is it going to be a good thing? Is it going to be a bad thing? We're unsure. We're going to put them on watch. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. The way I look at it is that, look at what happened in Greece. They said they would put a new government in, they said they would fix everything. It's not good. They're, trying to accept their third bailout and more and more and more austerity, more pension cuts, more infrastructure being sold off. You look around to other places, different cities and things that have to sell off their assets as well. You see the same thing where they're basically going bankrupt, different cities and countries and everything, to one degree or another. How in the world are they ever going to fix this issue if they have absolutely no possible way that they can do so. They are burdened. They are completely burdened by debt. The system that must consistently get further and further and further and further down the hole. Well, that's just my rant. I want to know what you think. This channel is not about me. This channel is about us together. We are figuring this out. We are finding different ways to be understanding this information. You can't just look at technical analysis. You can't just look at fundamental analysis. We want to be able to break it down every which way. And I know that you do that as well as myself. And we do this on a daily basis. Why? Because it happens so fast. People are saying that there was a couple people who said, you should do a weekly show, not a daily show. It's too much. Everything is moving fast. Look how often things are going downhill. It's not a good thing. This is not a good sign. But yet, every day, more and more information arises. It is a slow and steady collapse. It isn't something that necessarily is happening overnight. I've been waiting for the collapse. There are more people sleeping on the streets than ever before. You are seeing unemployment rates that are excessively high, and I mean real unemployment rates, not the U3 number that they show us. We are looking at inflation levels picking up. How do I know? Because we can see food prices and energy prices rising significantly at this time. When I go to the store, everything I buy is more expensive today than it was before. Look at our monthly plans on our different services. What I pay for my internet, what I pay for my cell phone. Here, I happen to be living in Toronto, but I'm sure it's the same for you. It just rises all the time. Oh, we have this fee or this tax or that tax, and they add it on slowly. It might be just $2 this month. 6 months later, it's $1, and suddenly, you realize, hey, that's 10% more than I was paying 2 years ago or 1 year ago or whatever. That's a problem that we are facing today in every category. The collapse does not happen just overnight. You just see everything dump. It's asynchronous. It happens all across the world, but in different ways, at different times, at different speeds. People can't recognize it. It is an asynchronous collapse. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me a thumbs up, it helps to support this channel, so I do appreciate that very much. And I just wanted to let everybody know, check out my site. I got a lot of free information on there. I got my free e-course. I've got, free ebooks. I've got, all my YouTube stuff on there as well. You could check this out as well as my books at themoneygps.com.